When you find a real estate platform that aligns everyone in the entire company financially by making us real estate agents owners, so when the average agent wins, everyone wins, that's the secret to success. And when you surround yourself with like-minded entrepreneurial people who absolutely love what they do, they love serving people, they love God and life, and you put yourself in an environment of high energy, high producing, positive people every day, you can't help but succeed in business and life. We are changing the real estate industry and changing real estate agents' lives. Welcome to the Financial Freedom Forever podcast. Well, hi, everyone. I'm super excited to welcome Don YOAKUM today to the Financial Freedom Forever podcast. Man, Don, the listeners, you guys are in for a treat. Don's from Hood River, Oregon. Professional athlete. We'll want to talk about that a little bit because that's a big deal. Professional real estate coach and networker. He actually grew 10 Keller Williams offices from the ground up. One being the most profitable in that marketplace. We'll talk to him about that a little bit today. And we're looking at where the topic today is going to be how to add at least one more transaction by getting more referrals from other professionals. So welcome, Don.
Per month.
Podcast. Per month. Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Andre. It's a pleasure to be here. And also, I want to thank you for the collaboration with my team. You've been really an inspiration to us. So we appreciate being able to work with you and lock arms and just work together to make a great company and change the lives of a lot of people.
Yeah, that is pretty cool about our company, right? We never really met face to face except a bunch of Zooms that we've been on with the leadership of the company, right? And you reached out to me asking for a little bit of help with your ISAs, and you know, I'm glad to help out any way we can. But we all work together, or it's all one company, one dream, one team, right?
That's exactly right. Yep.
So tell us a little bit. I just gave a really short snapshot of your background. Let's tell the listeners a little bit more of your history and your background, Don.
Sure. Well, it's somewhat unusual for a real estate professional to come from an athletic background, although I would tell you a lot of the people that I have had in my organization succeed oftentimes do have a high-level collegiate background. And what I find in those people is that they had learned certain disciplines in the practice of whatever sport that they were participating that required them to show up every day. And when they got knocked down, to get back up. And so they exhibited a certain amount of resilience to reach, let's say high-level collegiate athletics. And I applied that in my context to windsurfing. And as it turned out, I became a 3-time national champion. I was on the Olympic team for 3 years and ultimately became a professional. And even though that, it's not a mainstream sport like basketball, football, or baseball or something, it did provide me the opportunity to compete with world-class people from all over our globe and get to travel to a lot of really interesting places, beautiful places. As you can imagine, with windsurfing, we had the most beautiful beach venues that the world could offer. And so I'm very grateful for that time. I would say if there's anything it taught me was how to prepare to win. When you're at that level of competition in any endeavor, the people at the top are just relentless in their pursuit of constant, never-ending improvement. And so you could not rest. I mean, you could be winning one event and then 2 weeks later, someone would develop a new piece of technology, maybe for the fin or the sail, and you'd find yourself middle of the pack again. And, and it was a piece of, you had to prepare yourself physically, mentally, and you had to also, the tools of real estate, in my craft were, my equipment, right? And so those had to be state of the art as well. And then you had to combine all those elements bring them to bear in a competitive environment. And where it's very objective, you win or you lose. And not too many people care about second place. How excited were you, Andre, when you got second place on the listing?
Yeah, right. Not very good. Not very happy.
No, and our society has become a little bit of the winner take all mentality. Most of the leading tech companies have pretty dominant market share in their space. And I think, one of the messages that I would like to leave your listeners with is that if they want to have a really abundant career and prosper, it's important that they carve out a niche for themselves and that they are the best at something. It's an area where they find a special passion, and because then they're going to really work at it, right?
Right.
And so that's one of my 5 rules of referability is be the best at something. But I'm sure we'll get into the referral piece here later. But after windsurfing, I got into real estate and built a successful career. I closed 51 transactions my first full year in the business. That was at Remax. And I enjoyed my time there. In regards to just brokering transactions, Remax is a fine place to go. They give you a fair amount of autonomy. And I got to, rub shoulders with a lot of top producers, and I liked it. At that time in my life, that was the right place for me to be.
Right.
And then in 2000, I joined Keller Williams. That was the first franchise in Northern California at that time. Believe it or not, we were the only company in town that had a cat. And
Wow.
So times have certainly changed in that regard. But that Roseville office, I took from 10 to 184 agents in 27 months. And then Wayne Hall and I not only built that market center, which at one point became the most profitable Keller Williams in the country, but we built 6 in the Sacramento Metro area. And then with Gene Frederick, actually, who I'm sure you know,
right.
He and I built Cupertino and Palo Alto market centers. And then I did one in Santa Rosa and Tahoe as well. So really had a great run at KW. Can't really, I can speak highly of that company. And I felt like at that time, I probably bled Keller Williams red, right? I mean,
right.
It was the place to be in the early 2000s. And I appreciate, what I learned there, especially as a team leader, by the way. One of the things, Andre, that I feel like we are gifted with at EXP is that Glenn has afforded us the opportunity of owners and managers that obviously revenue share off their agents. And even when I was at KW, that was a bit of a frustration of mine. The profit sharing was not material enough for people to really change their behavior, so to speak, into building a sales organization of any magnitude anyway. And so I could afford ownership to a handful of people in a market center. But, gosh, that was maybe 3 to 5 people in a market center of what became 200, 300, 400 agents. Right. So a very small percentage of the population was able to enjoy the fruits of ownership.
And how much would it cost back then? And I don't know, has it changed much as far as someone wanted to buy into a KW franchise?
Yeah, well, each one of those that I launched, I had to come up with $250,000 in cash and had to be willing to sign a Class A, a lease on a Class A building, which can be really material. Those guys play pretty hard ball. They want a personal guarantee or a letter of credit of some magnitude. And then of course you have to take on the broker liability. Your staff has to all be in place right away. And so you're going to lose money for some period of time, probably a year. And then, maybe break even or make a nominal profit in the second, and then hope to make back in the third year what you lost in the first year. So, geez, 3 years in, you've risked $250,000 and you're back to square one. Now, thankfully it went reasonably well from there, but it was a lot of capital risk, a lot of broker liability for the return. And so I feel like what we've been given is an equal, if not greater, opportunity at EXP, but without that broker liability and capital risk. And quite frankly, like in your and my case, we've scaled our organizations far beyond that of a regular market center, right? Both of us are north of 600-700 agents, and that's 2 or 3 market centers, but we have no capital, we have no fixed costs, right?
Exactly.
And so it's a pretty amazing. And the other thing is, I'm not limiting the opportunity to 2% of my agents. 100% of my agents have that opportunity for financial freedom, right? Granted, not everyone takes it. You and I know that There's only about 12% of us that are really taking advantage of the revenue share opportunity, but it's there. It's there for everyone, and then they get to engage. Fortunately, we have a tremendous technology suite. So if they've just shown up because they want to take advantage of our cloud-based brokerage and the technology that supports it and get stock, more power to them. We love that. The only way we make revenue shares is when they sell property, right?
Exactly.
So I love that. And, Tom Daves, and my business partner, and I, we show up to just match their energy. And some people are going to want that to be focused around production, which I know we want to talk about professional referrals today.
Right.
And I'm actually quite passionate about that. I feel, Andre, that the industry has been geared around the real estate agent feeding everyone else. In fact, I liken to say that, it's as though there's a buffet. The realtor brings the food, everybody else brings a fork.
I like that.
If you think about it, isn't that largely true?
Yeah.
Okay. And why is that? I mean, on a net basis, I wouldn't say that we're more prosperous than the other affiliates, right? And so that has been my pursuit, is to balance those scales, so to speak, and to create an environment such that agents can also enjoy a networking professional referral relationship, or at least introductions from other professionals that frankly have the same customer, right? And so what I help people to do is to, first of all, identify the professionals that they should be primarily focused on connecting with. And on the asset-based side, the ones that are really influential and could make a difference are CPAs, financial advisors, attorneys is a good one. Actually, there's 3 different types that you want to engage with there. Divorce, unfortunately, is probably the best. But then there's bankruptcy, and there's estate, and then lenders, insurance. And you know what a really emerging one is now is assisted living managers have become potential really great referral sources for several agents around the country. I recently interviewed a gentleman that's getting 30 deals a year from one assisted living development manager relationship that he has. Can you imagine? I mean, that's the icon level production from one source, right?
Right.
And
it's fantastic.
Yeah, it is. And so that's the asset side. On the vendor side, what I ask agents to think about is, it's funny because in technology now, the big raging thing is AI, right?
Right.
So I recently wrote this article called Relational AI. And what that means to me is having a relationship with an individual that is going to be engaged in activity that is right before they would do what we want them to do. So what does somebody do with their home right before they're going to list it? Okay. Don't they paint it, landscape it, remodel it? I've got one agent in Southern California that got 4 deals last year from his window washer.
Wow.
Okay. So I've got another one that got 5 deals from a remodeling company. One of my agents, Bob Miacco in Colorado, gets 3-4 deals a year from his painter. Okay. Which, by the way, that's the category that got me onto this subject. One of my agents in Denver was getting, actually, I was talking to him in June, and he had already gotten 3 listings year to date from his painter. Right. Okay. But if you just think about it, do you know about 25% of the time someone's painting their home, they're preparing it for sale? Right. There's really only 3 reasons somebody paints a home. They're either preparing it for sale, okay, they've got deferred maintenance, or they just bought it and they're fixing it up.
Right.
What else is there? Right.
Exactly.
And so, right now, by the way, I'm in charge of my mom's estate and I'm preparing her home for sale. Well, last weekend, we completely cleared the front yard landscaping. If you're an astute realtor and you're driving by and all of a sudden the yard disappears and they're about to put down sod, that's a trigger event. That should tell you something's going on at that house. Okay. And, the week before we had a 40-yard dumpster there. Right. So that was another trigger event. Right. Okay. So The question that you need to train, because by the way, even though those are all trigger events, that doesn't mean those people are going to refer you or introduce you to their client. Okay. So here's what you've got to do. You've got to go to that painter and, let's just say for the sake of our conversation that you were my painter.
Okay.
So I would come to you, Andre, and I'd say, Andre, I love doing business with you. You do great work. You've been great for my clients, and I appreciate that. And I want to continue to introduce you to my clients. I'm just wondering if it would be possible when you go out to meet with the client, would you just ask them what has prompted them to paint their home? Right? Because, if you're going to sell right away, I'm going to use a quality paint, but we may not want to have the most expensive one, right? And I'm going to do a great job. My crew is going to certainly make your home look wonderful, but we may not go to the same cost and details if you tell me you're going to live here for another 10 years, right? So in other words, as a customer of that painter, wouldn't you feel like, oh, geez, this guy's trying to, match the job to my need?
Right.
Okay. And so roughly 25% of the time, you're going to say, well, yeah, Don, I'm planning to move to Atlanta, like you did from New York to Atlanta one time, right? And so, and when you say that, I would just say, well, gosh, Andre, painting, I'm sure is one of the best things that you can do to prepare your home for sale. So we're going to take care of you there. I would also tell you, though, that I have a real estate colleague that can come out at no cost or obligation to show you how to optimize your home for sale and what else you could do to get top value. And also, frankly, we have a seller's market. So he or she can also tell you what you don't need to bother with.
Right.
Okay. And so then if the person says yes, you do not. By the way, don't give your business cards to vendors. Make sure they have your contact information. But what happens at that point is if the person says, sure, yeah, I wouldn't mind having their information, you say, okay, great. I'll just do a quick little text introduction. It is a text introduction, not a business card, okay? Because even though the person may intend to call from a business card, they lose the card, they forget, they get busy.
Right.
By the way, in the process of buying a home, NAR tells us that the average consumer engages with 14 different realtors. Okay. So don't leave that to chance. The painter right then and there is going to do a text intro between that potential seller and the agent. Boom. Now you're in control of that process and you've got the dialogue, and then you go out and you do a CMA, right?
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's so doggone simple, right? It's, like Jim Rohn used to say, it's easy to do and easy not to do.
Yeah, right.
Okay. But that very question that I'm giving you there is the question that it's phrased a little bit differently, but it's basically the question for all of the trigger events for listing a home. May I ask what has prompted you to landscape your home, to remodel your home, to trim the trees, to resurface the pool, okay, to have a dumpster, right? Like I had at my mom's place a couple of weeks ago, right? So these are unusual events. If you're a realtor and you're driving through a neighborhood and you see somebody painting a house with their little, how they put the little signs out, okay, stop your car. Okay, go talk to that painter and say, hey, looks like you're painting these guys' home. You have any idea what their plans are? Right?
That's great.
Okay. And so that's the question for the vendors. Now, for the asset-based professionals, it's a little bit different. Okay. So do you have somebody prepare your taxes?
Yes. Just met her this week.
Okay, wonderful. All right. So when you go to have your taxes prepared, they will typically ask you, did you buy or sell a home last year? Or it'll be on a little checklist. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Here's the problem. It's extremely rare, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's extremely rare for them to say, well, Andre, do you plan to buy or sell a home in the coming tax year?
Right.
Right?
Yeah,
That question doesn't get asked.
Right.
Okay. Now think about this for just a second. You and I, as real estate professionals, we're familiar with the tax deferred exchange laws and all of this, but is the consumer really up to speed? Okay. How in the world is a CPA going to help a client mitigate their taxes if they find out about the event after it occurs?
Right.
Okay. So if your CPA is not asking that question, you need a new CPA. Okay. So the question is, Andre, do you plan to buy or sell a property in the coming tax year? That's it. Okay. And if they say yes, then find out a little, is it personal residence? Is it an income property? And then may I introduce you to blah, blah, blah. They could help you. Right. And so for the asset-based professionals, it's all that question of, do you intend to buy or sell in the coming year? But it is phrased a little bit differently. Like, for example, one of my pet peeves is insurance brokers, right? Because they're like parasites in our industry. They get referrals, but they never give them. Okay. And I'm generalizing a little bit. There are some good eggs out there. Okay. But I will tell you, because I've coached a good number of them, that the average decent homeowners insurance broker has 500 homeowners.
Okay.
Clients. Okay. Now, in years, how often would you say that somebody buys or sells a home? Is it 5, 7, 10?
Yeah, usually 6 to 7 years.
Okay. So if it were 6 to 7, it would make my point even stronger. But I'm going to make the math really easy and be conservative and say it's 10 even. Okay. Because, what do the insurance brokers tell you now? Oh, Don, I'd love to refer you, but I find out about it at the last minute. Okay. Well, that's true in a transaction, and it's total bunk in their business because, people may or may not be aware of it, but the insurance broker is legally obligated to renew the policy every year. Right. So they have to communicate with the client once a year, just like the CPA has to do your taxes once a year. Okay. Now, if they have 500, and this is a question, by the way, the language in that industry is how many households do they serve? So when you're interviewing an insurance broker, you would want to know how many households do you serve and what percentage of those are homeowners. You're looking for a guy that has 500 homeowners in their book of business. Okay. And I'm telling you, anybody that's been in the business, 3 to 5 years has a book of business roughly that large. I've coached people that have 3,000 people in their book of business. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Just to give you perspective, but do the math. 500 clients, they move every 10 years. That insurance broker has got a client listing their home every week of the year, 50.
That's right.
Okay. And that is just the personal residences. That doesn't count second home or income properties.
Right.
Okay. So now Farmers Insurance, for example, has this thing, they call it the Farmers Friendly Review. And what that means is I'm going to call you up once a year. Hey, Andre, how's it going? And I'm going to try to upsell you into another policy.
Sure.
By the way, that's another great question to ask your insurance guy. How many policies do you average per client? Okay. If they average less than 1.5, they're transactional. They probably don't talk to their clients. If they average 2 or more policies, they probably do have a relationship with their clients, and they're more relational oriented. That's what you're looking for. Okay. Now, number one stipulation for doing business with an insurance broker, and by the way, the lenders have even more influence, so you can work with your lender to influence the insurance broker, right?
Okay.
And so qualifier number one, they have to have book business of 500. Number two, they have to have a policies per client of at least 1.5. Number three, they have to talk to the client live. And it doesn't have to be them. Like, the guy that I was coaching that had 3,000, he can't call all those clients.
Right.
Someone on his team. And it's okay if they have an assistant call. Okay. But when they do the Farmers Friendly Review and they try to upsell you that umbrella policy or whatever, okay, have them do that. That's fine. But before they hang up the phone, The question is, Andre, by the way, how are you liking your place? Are you settled in there a while? What is that code for?
Yeah, they're gonna tell you, oh, yeah, we're here for another 5 years, or well, we're actually going to be making a move in the next 6 to 12 months. Yeah, it's a great
Exactly. And by the way, right, 1 out of 10 statistically of the people that they ask that question are moving this year. Right?
Yeah, this is gold nuggets, Don. This is really good info.
Hey, man, I tell you, it works. And what's, because I've been a professional coach for more than a decade in this space, I have had contacts, like I referenced the guy in Colorado that gets 30 listings a year from assisted living manager. Okay.
Right.
Or my icon agent in Evergreen that gets 3 to 4 listings from his painter. Okay. But my problem is I've got these isolated guys out there. I had an agent one year that got 13 deals from a bankruptcy attorney. Of course, it was following the crash.
Right.
Right. But my point is that what I'm praying for is I'm going to be able to engage with a professional that will even just get a half a dozen of these different ones. Right. Because the examples I've given you, there's 15 professionals that you really want to make sure you get. Right.
Okay.
And again, just for your listeners, that on the asset side is that CPA, financial advisors, the attorneys, the insurance and the lender, and the assisted living manager. And then on the vendor side, it is the painter, the landscaper, the remodeler, the tree trimmer, the pool resurfacing, the trash out guy, right? Here's an interesting thing. One is I was talking to, those guys that come out and spray every quarter, they spray for bugs.
Yeah. The pest.
Right.
Yeah.
So the pest. Okay. I happened to be having lunch at a Chipotle with the owner of one. And I says, well, how many clients does your average sprayer serve? And he says, well, they serve 400. One sprayer. Okay. Because they're spraying every quarter. Right.
Right.
Okay. So do the math on that. That one sprayer has got 40 people selling their home every year. Okay. Now, What are you going to do if you know you're going to sell your home? You're going to cancel that doggone policy. It's costing you whatever, right?
Right.
30,
exactly.
40 bucks a month. Okay. So be friends with a termite guy, that does the spraying, because they're going to be in a conversation and the person's going to say, yeah, we're going to cancel the service because, we're moving to Toledo or whatever,
Right.
And okay, great. And by the way, just so you know, the time that those guys are best able to get clients is right when they close. So make sure when you're closing a deal, you're asking the client, okay, as you settle into your home, some of the things that you might be thinking of, are you going to want to do your own landscaping? Do you want to take care of the pool? Do you need a reference to a pest company, right? It looks like these trees might need trimming. Is that something that would you like an introduction? And kind of go through that list, because what you're attempting to do is make deposits in these relationships that will then create the reciprocity. Okay. Now, some of your agents might be saying to themselves right now, well, okay, great. Yeah, well, that makes sense. Yeah, but I'm only doing 1 or 2 deals a month. I probably am only going to be able to introduce a CPA to 2 or 3 clients a year, right? Okay, that is true. And let me tell you a story about a mastermind that I was facilitating. So I'm in this group. I've got 12 professionals. To get in the group, by the way, you had to make $250,000 a year. Okay. So we got all these professionals in a room, and I've got a CPA, a financial advisor, attorney, all these categories that I've been telling you about, right? And what I did is I went around the room and I said, hey, I want you to share to whom you refer the most, and also where you get the most professional referrals, right?
Okay.
So we get to the financial advisor, and the guy says, well, I've referred my CPA 300 times.
Wow.
And we're sitting there everyone in the room is very successful, right? But we're like, man, I want to be that guy's best friend. Okay.
Exactly.
And so come to find out, by the way, those 300 referrals were over a 20-year period of time. So it's about 15 a year,
Sure.
which, that's good, but, it's not incredible. All right. And I says, well, Greg, how is it that you would refer your CPA so much? And he said, well, I would just, when I sit down and go over all their assets, I would just kind of casually say, well, by the way, how do you like your CPA? Are they doing a great job for you? And if they weren't a raving fan, then I would say, well, I've got a good one. Would you like me to make an introduction? Okay. And about 1.5 times or 1.25 times a month, they would say, yeah, I'm not thrilled with my CPA. And he would make that introduction. In fact, do you know that he referred that guy so much, he had to stop referring him. He had to go get another CPA because he got him so many clients.
So busy. Wow.
Right. And so, by the way, I found out from that same guy, I go, well, you probably refer a fair amount of lender referrals too, right? He goes, yeah, I do also about 15 a year. Okay. Now, here's your job. Okay. You may only be doing 1 or 2 deals a month, but how would you like to have been the realtor that introduced that financial advisor to that CPA?
Exactly.
Okay. That's 300 deposits that you indirectly made over 20 years. Who do you think that CPA is going to love on?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, this is great stuff, Don. I'm taking down notes of some of the things because I haven't thought of all those. I mean, you talk to you think about the regular ones, your lenders, your attorneys, your the basic ones, but I never even thought of the assisted living or those type. But that's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, and the truth is, doggone it, it's just simple, right? And
it really is.
But so few people do it intentionally. And I got to tell you, we are under attack as an industry. Okay. The technology companies are attempting to wedge themselves between ourselves and our clients. Okay. And so part of why I'm on this mission is because I want to make the agents defensible. I want them, between their sphere of influence and their professional network, to be able to be completely independent of internet lead generation. Okay. Right. Now, don't get me wrong. If I had to go back into sales today, God forbid, okay, I would spend money on marketing. Okay. But what you want to do is you want to do whatever it takes to get that wheel spinning, but slowly but surely, you want to take that prospecting time or marketing expense, and that goes down while your referrals go up, and you want to switch that equilibrium, right?
Right.
You always do both, right? Because you want to continue to brand yourself into the market. But if you're spending money on Zillow, whose brand are you building?
Right. Not yours.
Zillow's.
Yeah.
Okay. And let me tell you, when you have a client give you a 5-star review, you just made that client a Zillow client.
That's right.
Okay. So what professional networking does is it complements a sphere of influence, relationship-based business. And it gives, my goal is between someone doing one deal, at least a deal a month from their professional sphere, at least one deal a month from their local network, right, and then one deal a month from national relocation. Okay. If you do that, you're 36 deals, and in our model, you're an icon in virtually every market in the country.
Right.
So you're getting your entire cap back in stock. Right. And you did, what did you spend? You did pay if you got one of those deals from an agent, you paid a referral for that. But that's the other beauty is you can't pay those professionals referral fees legally, right? Unless they're licensed. The only exception, although most people don't accept it, the attorneys are legally able to receive a referral.
Right.
That they rarely do. That case, though, that I told you about, the bankruptcy attorney in Denver, he did take a referral from that agent, but most attorneys don't.
Yeah, you're just creating relationships with these people, and like you said, putting deposits, goodwill deposits, and helping them out. They're going to do the same back for you, especially if you're giving them the information that, like you shared to the listeners today, of how to set that up and how to coach them a little bit on what to say and how to say it. They're going to be happy to do that for you because it's a give and take relationship, and you're going to be able to help each other out. It's really good, Don. Hey, anyone listening today that you have any specific questions for Don while we have him here, please just put in the chat, and we'll go ahead and ask him before you finish up. And yeah, definitely share this post and get it out to your listeners and real estate friends for sure, because this is some really gold nuggets. Hey, Don, if anyone wants to reach out to you, if they have any questions, I don't know if you are taking on more clients for coaching and mentoring, but how would someone reach out to you if they wanted to connect with you?
Yeah, on Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific, I do a Zoom training. They just go to the link ProInsightWithDon.live. Maybe you can put that in the chat. So it's ProInsightWithDon.live. That's 9 a.m. That's 1 hour. And that's all based on productivity training. Yesterday, we handled overcoming objections. And the theme or the emphasis of that is around professional networking most of the time. And they're welcome to attend that. I do not charge for that. I'm not taking on coaching clients for fee at this time. As you know, I've got a pretty significant EXP organization. And so I want to pour into those folks as much as I can. But, if someone is really genuinely interested in getting professional referrals, they can email me at don@proinsight.com and just I'll have a conversation with them. I expect them to do the work. The reason why I reached out to you is because I know you are willing to do the work. You make the calls, and there's so few people that do that. When you find those people that are willing to actually implement, then you feel like you're making a difference. And I'd like to do that. And just to leave your listeners with a couple thoughts. Number one is, first of all, identify those top 15 professionals. And they're earlier in the recording. They can re-listen to that. Number two is make sure that you have standards for being able to engage with you. Okay. You're not forcing them to refer you, but you're saying, hey, my expectation is you're going to ask these questions, right? And those questions will then bubble up the referrals. And remember, the question on the asset-based side is, do you plan to buy or sell in the coming year? The question on the vendor side is, may I ask what has prompted you to fill in the blank, to paint your home, to landscape your home. Okay. And then when they get a live person that is looking to make a change, it is a 3-way text introduction.
That's important.
Yes. Yeah. So if they do those things, I think we've delivered, Andre. They will get their extra deal a month.
Yeah, probably maybe easily an extra two or three deals a month if they get some really good relationships. One more time, I was writing it down. So what's the website and the date again? Tuesdays?
Yes. Yeah. So if they want to come to the productivity training I do weekly, it's www.proinsightwithdon.live. And, and of course, any of your folks in your organization are always welcome to come, right? One team, one dream, baby.
Yeah, that's right. I appreciate that. And it's Tuesdays at what time?
9 a.m. Pacific.
9 a.m. Pacific.
12 noon Eastern.
Well, I think you really delivered on the goods today, Don, to help everyone bring out at least one more deal a month with professional referrals. That was really great. Any last minute thoughts that you want to leave the listeners with that you can think of before we let you go?
Well, I'll leave you with what I consider to be the 5 rules of referability.
Okay.
Number 1, show up on time. Number 2, do what you say. In fact, I would tell you that your referrals will correspond with the extent that you exceed the expectations that you set with your client. Number 3 is finish what you start. Okay. Be a person that people can count on. Number 4 is say please and thank you. And in this day and age, do it in a personalized handwritten note. And number 5, we mentioned it earlier, be the best at something.
Right.
You do those 5 things, your world's going to be good.
That's awesome. Great information, Don. Hey, just before I let you go, just a couple of real quick things. I just curious because I never asked you this originally. You were with KW for a very long time. How did you hear about EXP, and what was the top one or two things that made you really dig in and take a look? Because obviously you didn't have to. You're super successful and doing really well. What was it for you?
Well, Brent was the first person
Okay.
that brought it to my attention, and that was one of the first people that he contacted because I had been a team leader in the office that he became a team leader in, which was
Okay.
Roseville. That's where he had his 18-man team, was Keller
Right.
Roseville, right? And my initial impression of the EXP model was it was too good to be true. And that's because I was accustomed to a bricks and mortar model that had that fixed expense plus all the staffing and equipment that would be associated with that. So I was having a hard time making those computations. And then, so I passed initially. It wasn't great timing. I had accepted a role as a regional VP for a lender, but and I was making a move from California to Oregon. But it just honestly, it just seemed too good to be true. And then I found out Brent was making $100,000 a month. About 18 months later, I remember telling my wife, sweetie, I think we probably should take another look at that thing. And then what I did at that point is I took a deeper dive into the model and I began to understand. I mean, if you really think about it, we kind of operate in an 80-10-10 model, right? The agent gets 80, the company retains 10% goes to the agents that are building the company. Of course, once the agent caps it, they get 100%, right?
Right.
But by following that model, I could see the sustainability of it. Not only could I see that it was sustainable, but I could see how it was much more durable even than the models that I had come from. Right? Because I don't want to work really hard and then have the thing go out of business. Okay. But when I joined, which is just over 3 years ago, they were already adding $2 million to their balance sheet every single month.
Right.
That was it, 10,600 agents. Well, now they've got what, 76,000 agents?
76,000, yeah.
If we lost half of our agents tomorrow, we'd go back to what, 35, 36,000 agents. That'd be 3 times the number that they had when I joined.
Right.
When they were delivering 2 million a month to their balance sheet. So we have an incredibly durable model that scales like nothing I've ever seen. And so I'm really feel privileged for the opportunity to build a sales organization on the platform, and just grateful that Glenn came up with such a fantastic model that would give, not just a couple percentage of my agents an opportunity of ownership, but every agent.
That's right. It's a level playing field for all of us.
That's right. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for your time today, Don. I'm sure I'll see you at one of the next live events. My very last question before I let you go. If you could join EXP all over again, would you do anything differently?
Absolutely. Yeah. I came from the KW model where they basically, hire anybody that can fog a mirror. And that doesn't really work in our model. I believe that if it's a newer agent to join our system, they should probably join a team that has an established office so they get a lot of support and accountability. But I would really concentrate on the people that are going to gain the greatest benefit. And the people, I say, if you're an icon level producer and you're not at EXP, it's literally, it's like financial malpractice on your family. Okay. So I would be going after much higher caliber agents, especially those agents that have built small or even large production teams from day one. My organization would probably be twice the size that it is today. And, I'm not complaining. Okay. Right. But I'm just saying that I would be more intentional about my pursuit of quality professionals and build my foundation with icons as opposed to the average agent. And it works getting the average agent, about out of every 20 that you recruit, you're going to end up with one that will end up emerging. But, like you shared with me the other day, some of your biggest builders, they had learned the power. They not only did they have influence as a producer, but they had learned the power of leverage, and, and they had built production teams. Right. And so you want somebody that not only has the ability to produce, but also has now gained an understanding of leverage and succeeding through other people. And when you find that person, man, there's no better place than EXP for them. And so dig in and do everything in your power to ensure that they understand the model, because if they're not joining us, then they're doing their family a disservice.
And they probably just don't understand the model. Like you said, you passed on it the first time. It wasn't perfect timing, but you didn't really dig in and do the math, right? You didn't really look at and do your due diligence. And I feel bad for a lot of people. I mean, I normally will ask people on the podcast that I interview is, hey, if you could do it all over again, what would you do differently? And 9 out of 10 say, oh man, I wish I would have joined, the first time I heard about it, or would have really dug in and did my due diligence, right away, and not kind of wait 6, 12, 2 years later when somebody else they heard it for the fourth time. And
well, that delay in my part, by the way, right now is probably costing me over $100,000 a month and a couple million in stock.
Yep.
Okay. So at least I did it when I did it, baby.
That's right. That's right.
So.
All right, awesome. Before we sign off, if you're a reader, what's the best inspirational book you love? Or if you're a movie watcher, what's your favorite all-time movie?
Well, I'm most definitely a reader. And since we're talking about leverage, a recent book that I've read that I really encourage your folks to get is Who Not How by Dan Sullivan.
Who Not How.
That really will help you to understand about leverage. And I've been coached by Dan, and I really think highly of him. I got that, the 5 rules of referability, the first 4 from Dan Sullivan at Strategic Coach. So
awesome.
That would be where I would point people to, is Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. That'll really give you an insight into the power of leverage and succeeding with other people. Fantastic. You really gave us a lot of gold nuggets today, Don. I appreciate your time, and thanks again. And we'll see you again soon. Yeah. Hopefully Cabo.
Sir, take care.
All
Thank
right.
you.